Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. The Friday Night Freak Show has begun. Let's do this thing. The madness continues, and we've got a full slate of games that have just tipped off and are coming up right now on the Friday Night Freak Show. We talked a lot about liking the Houston Cougars, specifically in the first half of this basketball game. They closed at minus 15.5. It's 10-2 Cougars right now, early over Longwood, 3.5 minutes in to this basketball game. James Madison, a team that I have going to the Sweet 16, beating Wisconsin tonight, and then beating the Duke Blue Devils, who won and covered against the Vermont Catamounts. The Cats hung around. They just didn't have enough claws, all right, when it was all said and done, i.e. talent. Duke was just a little bit too much for them. They were lingering around the point spread all night. It fell apart late. Duke awaits the winner of James Madison and Wisconsin, and we could have Duke versus the Dukes. So we're on James Madison plus the points. We got James Madison plus 5. We hit the over of this basketball game as well. TCU and Utah State getting ready to tip off. We're on TCU in this game. It hasn't been pretty for the Mountain West, although San Diego State did survive today, as expected, as we talked about it last night. Said it was going to be a super close game. San Diego State would probably find a way to win because they got the experience and they're good at that. But UAB would cover the point spread. That's what happened. College of Charleston will not be covering the point spread. They're getting lit up right now. The SEC was getting lit up. The SEC was 1-5 straight up and against the spread coming into the night slate tonight. But Texas A&M played great. They looked awesome tonight. And it's funny because, I tweeted something out yesterday to whatever before the tournament. We talk about it a lot on the show come tournament time about throw out all the regular season stats. And I understand why people do it, right? It's something to hang your hat on. You want to sound smart. And, this team is ranked this and that. And they're ranked in this rebounding and all that. Yeah, fine. Yeah, whatever. The Texas A&M Aggies are the 9th worst three-point shooting team in the country. They are ranked 348th, all right? They can't shoot threes. Tonight, when they were like 55%, they couldn't miss, right? The NCAA tournament, it's just different, man, all right? It's a second chance. It's a new season, and all the stats and all that stuff, they really don't matter. Right, we talk, Drake is so good fundamentally. Yeah, that is until there's actually a game on the line and they turn the ball over, right? So James Madison and the Badgers are off and running. 10-4 for James Madison. As we stated, we got TCU and Utah State coming up. The Mountain West, they've been getting beat and they've been getting, they've had a couple of heartbreakers, but for the most part, they've been getting beat down, right? Nevada blew the lead. We saw Boise State lost. One team after another from this conference has been punched in the mouth. Now you get TCU. I really don't know what to expect from TCU, but I trust TCU more than Utah State, even though Utah State won a Mountain West regular season. You know how we roll. You know our style. We can't help ourselves when we hit these in games. We've got our eye right now on Alabama and College of Charleston. So we bet the over of the game, even though it was stupid high at 173. And then we decided, you know what? Since we're on Charleston and I don't like losing on a game, right? I'm always betting the side and the total for the most part. Although today there was a bunch of games today where I didn't mess with the total. But then what happens is a lot of times I'm like, I won't bet the total. And then I end up betting it in game and I get a worse number and I end up losing. So tonight I was just sort of like, I'm just jumping in here. But I did take the over 173, and I have Charleston, so they're going to lose. And I'm like, man, I don't want to lose money on this game or just waste my time watching this. So I'm going to jump in on another in game here. We took over 190.5. It could get there. It might get there. The total is 197.5 right now. But you figure, listen, Alabama's winning 171 right now. So they're going to put their bench, like the end of the bench, in soon. And then that stuff gets ugly. But with that being stated, anybody that had money on Purdue tonight, unbelievable. Purdue cashes the number because a kid that never plays got on the court with like 40 seconds left and hit a three, and Purdue ended up winning the game by 28 points. They were laying like 27 and a half, depending on when and where. But they covered with that. It wasn't 28 and a half, right? They with the 28 was a cover. And the building erupted. And I was like, yeah, and I think it was Iron Eagle, whoever the hell it was. And I like Iron Eagle a lot. I'm not, no disrespect to Iron when I say whoever the hell it was. But, we're watching so many games tonight. I think it was Iron Eagle. Whoever the announcer, no, maybe it wasn't. Whoever the announcer was goes, oh, and the crowd always loves to see, these bench players that work so hard. And I'm thinking, yeah, they also like to see them. They also like to see the team cover the point spread, right? I said it out loud as it happened. I wasn't even watching the Purdue game, but I had money on Purdue. All right, I wasn't really paying too much attention to it. I had Purdue in the first half, and I lost. And I was like, all right, they'll probably pull away in the second. We'll see what happens. So I check in, and I literally checked in with like 50 seconds left. And I see Grambling State score. They cut it. There was 25. And I'm like, I've got it at 26 and a half. I'm like, man, I got it at 26 and a half, man. And I'm like, man, it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys. And then boom, the kid hits a three. They win by 28. So Purdue covered a number. Grambling sort of hung around early, actually. I know everybody was waiting for them. I thought Purdue would show up early in the first half after what happened last year to them in the first round, right? But Purdue ends up getting it done. Purdue rolls. We'll get you the updated point spread. So speaking of first halves, we're all about Houston. And anybody that's been tuning into the show all week, and we've been breaking down the tournament all week long, I kept talking about, Houston, getting off to like a 20-4 start or something like that. They do this against really good teams in the Big 12. Houston are, some really good teams might be slower starters, and then they light it up as the game goes on. Houston are strong starters. Houston like to put points up on the board and then just sort of take the air out of the clock and then play defense on you. But they like to come out quick on offense and get that lead early on you. 13-2 right now. So let's keep this thing going with the Houston Cougars. We also laid the 24 with the Cougs in this game. James Madison up 15-4 right now on the Badgers. Although the total has fell to 136.5. James Madison, 5-point underdogs, are now 4.5-point favorites. Wisconsin getting 4.5. Wisconsin plus 165 on the money line. We're awaiting tip-off with TCU and Utah State. We are on TCU minus the points. It's one of the rare ones where we're going to be laying the points, and we will be pulling the trigger. Listen, how can I bet against the Grand Canyon Antelopes? L-O-P-E, Lopes. Lay it down, plus the points, Lopes, and the over.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the Purdue that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NC State game on Saturday against North Carolina that stood out most to me, that they not only went on a 5-day heater like they did in '83 when Valvano took them another 6 games and they won the national championship.
The committee didn't sit there at the beginning of the week and think that Oregon, New Mexico, NC State, Duquesne, they didn't sit there planning for all those teams to go and win.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smarty.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Thank you, I appreciate this. You want one of these?
I'm good, KG.
You want your ginger shot?
I'm good, man, I'm good.
I need some positivity today. I'm trying to cover this spread, and your vibe is off, G.
What's wrong with my vibe?
You got to get you one of these, G. Get to sip some of this positivity in your life, and boom! You see that? Spread's covered. Thank you, Mama. In a minute, G. Ha ha!
And just like that, the Sweet 16 is that close. This is Sports Rage. I'm Morency. A special edition March Madness Insanity continues on the SportsGrid Radio and Television Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. Steve Merrill will step up in a couple of minutes. Tony Finn will join us straight from the Strip of Las Vegas, Nevada. Rob Vino from Philadelphia. Mick Aussie will kick it with us. We're going to squeeze Mick in tonight because there is AFL football going on, and as much as everybody's betting on the college basketball, maybe somebody wants to lay it down in the late night hours on the AFL games. An update right now: the Houston Cougars are leading Longwood 14-4, low scoring game. 11:57 left in the first half. Houston are up 10. We laid 15 and 15.5 with the Cougars in the basketball game. And we also laid 24 as far as the game is concerned. They're minus 28.5 right now. The total is 123.5. James Madison, a trendy team. I've got them going to the Sweet 16. So we took them plus the points tonight. Money line play, but we bet the over of this game. It's a little off pace right now. 136.5 is the total. It closed at 144. James Madison off to a 15-5 start up on Wisconsin right now. So the Dukes have a 10-point lead. They're already 4.5-point favorites. 136.5 is the in-game total. Alabama absolutely destroying College of Charleston. And this game has gone over the number. It was a high number at 173. We'll bring in Steve Merrill and Cam Stewart right now. And, Steve, this is a high number at $173. Maybe it scared some people off, but it was the Vaquero special, buddy. 173, it gets there, it goes over the number. 102.78 right now.
What is an example of two teams both want to play fast, and when that's the case, the better, more talented, more athletic team has the edge. And it was a good matchup for Alabama for that reason, but I still think they're a very flawed defensive team. Charleston was 2 for 15 at halftime from three-point range. That's why that game became a blowout.
I know I'm not alone in this, but I know this is for the hardcores only, but I'm sweating out an in-game over 190.5 in this game right now, Cam. I've already hit the over 173. I hit a bunch of in-game totals in this game, but I always like to go for one more. And this one I went with 190.5. It's not, listen, they're up to 182 right now, and there's still 3.5 minutes left. It should get there. wild. The game of the day. Listen, it was a wild day today. The SEC obviously got punched in the mouth once again, although Texas A&M looked good, and now Alabama's getting the SEC back on track. But we can recap what happened. But I was going to say that Colorado-Florida game was just some wild, crazy stuff, especially for the in-game over bettors. But let's get to the games coming up right now. Steve, who do you like, TCU and or Utah State?
Yeah, I mean, this is a late-night game right here, and I do think the play in this game is TCU minus the 4. They coming off a loss, which is always an angle I'd like to look at because it keeps them focused. And Utah State's one of those teams that played a really soft schedule, and they also benefited from thin air and altitude in their home games this year, so don't think the Aggies are quite as good as maybe their record indicates.
Let's look at the Mountain West in this tournament as well. Colorado State, 11 points and a half. Boise State eliminated. Nevada blows a big-time lead, gets outscored 20-4 to end the game. Like I said, San Diego State survive. New Mexico gets absolutely slaughtered today. Favorite. So now you've got Utah State walking in here. I'm leaning TCU as well in this game. I'm not leaning. I've bet TCU in this game already. Cam, what's your play? TCU, Utah State.
I don't really love the game, but I'm kind of with you guys. And we talked about this before. Like, look at New Mexico, the trendiest pick, and Clemson slapped them around front to back. And that's the whole thing. Like, we talk about these conferences. And TCU, you could say one thing about the Horned Frogs, Gabe, and you watch a lot of college basketball. Steve does, I do, and I'll tell you, they play a brutal schedule. And it's one of those things that I'd rather have a team like that. And I know they're laying points, and one team in the conference usually does well. Like in the SEC, I guess they can rely on Tennessee, I think, to make a deep run. But I got to go with TCU in this game, Morency. So I guess three's a crowd, me, you, and Merrill.
For me, the difference is TCU. I think TCU could get after it defensively. Utah State, out of their comfort zone. Utah State have such a distinct home court advantage. We saw that today with Nebraska, right? Nebraska are a dominant home team. They won 3 road games this year. Yeah, they hit some shots early in the game, but when they don't have that, they don't have their crowd behind them, the altitude behind them and all that. They're just not the same team. TCU will just badger you, too, as a Big 12 team. I think it's 3.5 right now, too, right before tip-off. But it's minus 120 at 3.5. Grand Canyon and St. Mary's. This one's coming up in a couple of minutes as well. For the record, Alabama's up 104-84 right now with 2 minutes left. Steve, I'm buying in that Grand Canyon can hang around here. Anytime that, you have a team that plays at a slower tempo, like St. Mary's does, they're not really, they'll blow out inferior opponents. But Grand Canyon have been building for a while. This is their 3rd tournament appearance. They've never won before. They've gotten some tough draws in the past. But, they played San Diego State this year, right? They've played against real teams, Grand Canyon, and have held their own and won before at times. So I think that's at 6, 5.5, 6. I think we have another tournament close. 65 game with a couple of minutes left, Steve, in this one tonight.
Yeah, my power ratings make St. Mary's a 5.5-point favorite, and the line is currently 5.5 or 6 across the board. So I think it's pretty much spot on. I did use St. Mary's in my bracket to advance, but I do alternate brackets as well for my clients, and I had Grand Canyon as an alternate upset bracket pick. So I would not be surprised to see them compete in this. But you're right, it's going to be about tempo, Gabe, because Grand Canyon does like to play faster pace. St. Mary's obviously one of the best coached, slowest teams in the country year in and year out. If they slow this game down, that would favor St. Mary's under. If it speeds up, it'd be probably Grand Canyon and over. I think the 2-team parlays are probably correlated.
Yeah, Grand Canyon, though, I think Grand Canyon will be able – the key is if Grand Canyon can score. Wisconsin will be able to score on they'll score St. Mary's will be able to score on Grand Canyon. Right. So, but I don't think Grand Canyon will be intimidated by St. Mary's defense, at least enough to get into the mid-60s. I think the total is too light at 131. And some people agree. Most of these games are getting bet down to the under. This was like 130 and a half. It's 131 and a half right now. But I think we do get there and it goes over. My pick is Grand Canyon plus the points and the over in the basketball game. Cam, what are you doing with this one?
I agree with you. And here's the thing. I think whoever wins this game, it's just one of those games that I think the other team, you know what, Gabe? Don't you think this team, whoever wins, because I know a lot of people like St. Mary's to roll, some people like Grand Canyon. I think the winner of this game could actually win a couple games. I think it's both of these teams are very talented, and they do it in contrasting styles. But I'm going to take Grand Canyon in this spot, too, 5.5. Actually, I think it's very similar to the Drake-Washington State game. I would not be surprised if it landed between 1 and 5 points. Very tight game. So I will take the dog in Grand Canyon.
Hey, Gabe, real quick, along to what Cam was saying, the winner of this game plays Alabama. Boy, would I love to have St. Mary's against Alabama on Sunday. So I'll be rooting for St. Mary's for that reason alone.
Good call, Steve.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get in front of Alabama right now, personally.
That's a tough matchup for Bama, though, because they need to play fast. And St. Mary's 358th in tempo. Just something to keep an eye on if that's how it plays out on Sunday.
But if when Alabama, man, when they're on and they're hitting shots like this, they're serious. Like St. Mary's will not be able to keep up with them. And Alabama are much more talented than they are.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NC State game on Saturday against North Carolina that stood out most to me, that they not only went on a 5-day heater like they did in '83 when Valvano took them another 6 games and they won the national championship.
The committee didn't sit there at the beginning of the week and think that Oregon, New Mexico, NC State, Duquesne, they didn't sit there planning for all those teams to go and win.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Friday Night Freak Show continues. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. Houston Cougars up 23-9 right now on Longwood, laying 15.5 in the first half. So even though Longwood only have 9 points, Houston still have some work to do to distance themselves. Up 14 right now with 7:16 left coming out of a timeout in the first half. James Madison and Wisconsin. Game closed at 144. James Madison, we're getting an even 5. James Madison are up 23-16 right now. They're minus 145 on the money line. Wisconsin are plus 115. The total was 135.5. And Steve, James Madison were kind of, trendy team in some people's brackets. I stay away from a lot of the hipster picks, but I did like James Madison. I'm not so, I think that they match up very well with Wisconsin, and I think Duke are beatable after. But we'll see if this game gets back on pace. But both these teams have been scorching hot to the over. Eight of James Madison's last 10 games have gone over the number, and the Wisconsin Badgers, they're not the old school slow down Badger ball anymore. They're actually an over team. They're 9-1 to the over in their last 10 games, but a little bit slower start here. But who did you have in this game, Steve? I'm on James Madison and the over.
Yeah, I had a best bet on James Madison, so let's hope it holds up and they continue to play well. I did have him in my bracket as well. But, it's interesting, Gabe. I did my Fade the Public videos on Thursday and Friday on Wager Talk TV. And I asked everybody Thursday to comment below on YouTube. Let me know a double-digit seed they thought could make the Sweet 16. And didn't see a lot of people surprisingly saying JMU. So I agree. I thought they were going to be more of a trendy pick. The one that was by far the most popular, New Mexico. We know how that turned out today. And nobody, wanted anything to do with Clemson. They were the higher seed. They went off as an underdog. The other one that was getting a lot of love was McNeese. So the public didn't fare too well with New Mexico and McNeese. But James Madison actually, I thought, was flying under the radar a little bit more than you would have thought.
No, McNeese lost by 113 points or something like that. They got murdered. But Cam Stewart was on Clemson, yes, and it is true. Nobody really did. And congrats to you, Cam. I thought New Mexico would listen. New Mexico are led by 2 NBA kids, right? Eddie House's kid and Jamal Mashburn's kid are on the team. Yeah, exactly. And dude, they were combined like 3 of 31. You figure the 2 kids with NBA bloodlines would have showed up today. They both just tossed bricks. Because I was all over New Mexico. They had open looks. This is why we always talk about it, and we always talk about throw the damn stats out, guys. Once you get into the NCAA tournament, man, there's dudes that are under the basket. They miss easy, like putbacks, dunks. It's just different. You don't know what's going to happen with a team in the NCAA tournament. And New Mexico had the open looks. They just could not hit a freaking shot, this team. And Clemson, props to them. They didn't let up Clemson. They kept the pedal to the metal. Unlike some teams today, the Auburn Tigers paid the price for that today. Auburn were up by 8 all game, man. 6, 8, 10. And every time Yale would come back, cut it to 3 or 4, Auburn would punch them back and get it back to 10. And then you see Auburn's bench and their players, and they would go into like the game's over mode. Yeah. Arizona did the same thing to Long Beach, and Long Beach weren't good enough to do anything about it. But that's why I don't like these teams, right? Like some of these teams I was scared of. And this just opens up to everyone. Oh, UConn have such a hard path. Yeah, if the teams on paper win and stuff. So bye-bye Auburn right now. That was a shock. And I guarantee you, Steve, when people were talking about a double-digit seed still being around, how many people picked the Oakland Grizzlies?
Nobody.
Yeah, I did not pick Oakland. I had a best bet on Yale plus the points. And then the alternate bracket, I did recommend them. So not a shock, but I also thought Auburn could go really far. I even said the UConn-Auburn winner would probably be in the finals. But I had an asterisk next to every statement. I said they got to get by Yale because Yale plays slow down, half-court basketball, and Auburn does not like to play that way. And then on top of that, in hindsight, as you know, the SEC 0-3 yesterday. Florida went down tonight. Auburn went down. We always have to be careful in the college bowl season, the NCAA tournament, to overreact, to 1 or 2 game samples. But no question the SEC has vastly underperformed, and that would not bear well for Alabama. Gabe, we were talking about them before the break, if they were to have a tough matchup with a team like St. Mary's.
I have Tennessee making it to the Final Four, so I'm hoping.
You know what, Gabe?
You got the Barney.
We see this often, though. A lot of times, sorry, I was just going to say, Cam, a lot of times It's sort of like San Diego State. Like, yeah, everyone else in the Mountain West sucks all the time. There's always one team from a conference. Right? Tennessee might be that team. It's like everybody else, you all lose, but we're not going to.
Yes. That's the point that I'm trying to make, and people need to listen. All these other teams have gagged. You're on the right team. Every conference will have one.
Yeah, my team won by Tennessee. Did what they had to do. They didn't even play around with their opponent. They came out and like, we're going to murder you. And they did. That's what you need to do.
Peters. They took the Peacocks, ripped out all their feathers, and said, you want more? We'll do it again. We'll take you out to the shed. Like, yeah, that's the thing about Tennessee.
You can't let these teams hang around like Auburn did today. You can't let them hang around.
You agree, Steve. You agree. Gabe brought up, he was reading my mind. All these teams are, oh, this conference sucks, this conference sucks. But there's always one representative of the conference that goes deep in the tournament. And Gabe, I think you're on the right team in the Tennessee Volunteers. I feel that it's always that team. Oh, this conference stinks. Well, that's the thing about Tennessee too. I love that game because St. Peter's, like, they got murdered before and they had no chance of coming back. It's a shame, man. You gotta have a killer's instinct in this tournament. You don't just linger and let teams hang around. Look what Drake did with Washington State last night, Gabe. When we left the show, I thought I was done. And then Washington State's big man long, bam, 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 smashing dunks and stuff. It's like you can't take your foot off the gas ever.
And the Tennessee Volunteers, now though, there's no more free passes. They got St. Peter's. They got the Texas Longhorns, which of course is interesting. And the tournament, they always know what they're doing, like Michigan State. Steve, I talked about it over and over. Michigan State was going to beat Mississippi State, and they were going to play on Saturday against North Carolina, a little old school blue blood special on TV. And this one writes itself. People always talk, Rick Barnes struggles. Rick Barnes, of course, struggled with the Texas Longhorns. So Rick Barnes takes on his former team with the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Tennessee Volunteers are 6.5-point favorites in their game. I tell you, Steve, the Longhorns were impressive in their win against Colorado State, but this is a massive step up in class now against the Volunteers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the Rick Barnes factor is legit. The Matt Painter factor is something with Purdue I think is legit. And by the way, they're at the top of this bracket. They're the 1 seed. Dana Altman, Oregon, he faces his former school, Creighton, and the winner faces the winner of this Tennessee game in the Sweet 16. So how interesting
You're
is
going
that?
back a ways here. That was a long time ago.
Joe
Ranieri actually pointed that out to me. I'll give Joe credit because he pointed that out earlier. Although he asked me and Teddy, goes, didn't he start at Creighton? I go, yes. So it reminded me that he was there back in the day. I think Creighton's the team to beat in this region still. They got a tough game with Oregon, but Creighton, Tennessee next week in the Sweet 16 will be one of the best matchups of the tournament.
I like the Ducks. I'm leaning the Ducks plus the 5. I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
I'm leaning Ducks too.
Dana Altman, too, one of the best postseason coaches around. So, Barnes and Altman would be quite a contrast. You'd have an underachiever and an overachiever if they get by Creighton.
I don't believe in the. I don't want to be hypocritical because I have UConn winning the title, but I think UConn are the exception. Sort of like we were just talking about. I don't buy into Marquette or Creighton. I don't believe in either of them. I think they're both. Once they play like a really good team, I think they'll both lose. But I don't know if the Ducks are that team, right? Are the Ducks eventually going to? They ran the table last week. They played great again. The Ducks, though, they've got real talent, and they're peaking at the right time right now. They weren't healthy a lot through the year. Houston Cougars up 34-13 right now. Boom, they just hit another 3. Good, 37-13. So they're up 24. First half was 15.5. We talked about it all week. They're also minus 24. Speaking of handling their business, Steve, I expected Houston to murder Longwood tonight. I did lay the 24. And I don't know if you guys saw, for people tuning in, though, anybody laid the points with Purdue tonight, you won because of a bench kid that came off the bench with 30 seconds left. And it was one of those, hey, he's taking 3 shots all year type of deal, kids. And he pops the 3. They were winning by 25 with like 19 seconds. It was like Purdue, a lot of teams don't even shoot, but since it's the kids that ever play, they're allowed to shoot.
I like it.
So up 25, he popped it. Boom. And the place went crazy. The arena went nuts. And the announcer's like, oh, the fans always love to see when a kid that works hard in practice gets to hit a shot. And I'm like, no, they just covered, jackass.
Yeah,
It was 25.
exactly.
He just hit a 3 for 28. And it's Purdue. Everyone's got money on it. It's in Indianapolis. Everyone was like, oh, when he hit the shot.
Thank you, bench player. You catch my ticket. You're so right. Oh, yeah. I think it's the Rudy syndrome. They couldn't care less about this guy. He just won them their bets. You're so right.
Wayne Fonts, years ago, when Wayne Fonts was coaching the Lions, once they won, it was like Sunday Night Football, whatever. I remember they won. And they were getting booed. And he goes, man, these people in Detroit, he goes, they're never happy. I goes, they won the game and they're still booing. It's because he took a knee when they didn't cover.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So people are like, oh, now there's betting sport legal as the fans get mad. But fans get mad about this stuff forever, man. But all right, on the other side, we'll take a look at we'll get you caught to date again, but we'll take a look at tomorrow's games. We'll get Steve's thoughts. One of Steve's colleagues, Rob Vino's going to step up and in. Tony Finn a little bit later on. We got Mick Aussie in the house tonight. And we do have some NBA basketball, but I haven't really paid too much attention to it. Sixers and Lakers playing tonight. We'll hit this on the other side. Houston, 37-16 on Longwood. Let's go, Cougars.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance.
That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NC State game on Saturday against North Carolina that stood out most to me, that they not only went on a 5-day heater like they did in '83 when Valvano took them another 6 games and they won the national championship.
The committee didn't sit there at the beginning of the week and think that Oregon, New Mexico, NC State, Duquesne, they didn't sit there planning for all those teams to go and win.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Friday Night Freak Show continues. This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. It's 37-16 right now. $1.46 left in the first half. So the Houston Cougars, pretty dominant performance so far. They're looking for more, and they just got another deuce. 39-16. Looks like they're going to cover the 15.5 in the first half, laying 24 in the game. James Madison right now are rolling early. They're drilling Wisconsin. Wisconsin are like almost done type of deal. It's 33-16. Like they've dug themselves they got a serious problem here. And the in-game total is 127.5, way off the 144.5. James Madison doing their part, but there's only 55 seconds left in the first half. TCU are up 11-8 on Utah State, 4 minutes in to the basketball game. Grand Canyon and St. Mary's coming up next. Let's take a look at the overnight numbers and the games that are coming up tomorrow. As we've got some interesting matchups. Let's start off with the first game on the board. Dayton and Arizona. Arizona laying 9.5 to Dayton, Steve. The total is 149. What do you think about this matchup?
Had best bets on both of these teams yesterday afternoon for my clients at wagertalk.com. We started off with an easy winner on Michigan State, and then my other two daytime plays were Arizona and Dayton. We lose Arizona by half a point. They're up 24. They put the scrubs in, and unlike Purdue, the backups don't hit a meaningless three, and they lose by half a point. And then it was not looking good with Dayton, and all of a sudden Dayton turns it on in the second half. Never in doubt. We end up 2-1. So two teams I was involved with yesterday. I do think that Arizona turning it on in the second half might have been the buy signal. And if they come to play, it's going to be a tough matchup for Dayton. Arizona likes to play fast, really good offensive team. Dayton plays extremely slow half-court basketball. So this is another one of those paces. If Dayton can slow things down, they can hang here, but otherwise they're going to be in some trouble.
Total 149. Yeah, Arizona got Long Beach. And, man, Nevada were down early, then pulled away, and were dominating Dayton for most of the basketball game. But Dayton closed on a 20-4 run. Gonzaga and Kansas. So this one's interesting. I talked a lot about Sanford all week, 11 Sanford plus the points. They were getting drilled all night. They came back. It was a wild finish. The game sailed over the number. I have to wonder, though, this game is being played at altitude. That was a pretty draining basketball game that Kansas just played. There's a quick turnaround. It's a 3:15 Eastern start time earlier in Salt Lake City. Gonzaga laying 4.5, total 151.5. This should be a fun game, Steve.
Best player for Kansas is out. Their center, obviously, Dickinson has the shoulder all wrapped up, although it looks like he's okay. But now it's a 2 and 3 day scenario with altitude, like you said. And Gonzaga is the better team, and they're an underrated team this year. All of a sudden, no one's talking about Gonzaga, but it looks like they're turning things on, and they're the much better offensively as well. So I think they'll be able to pull away here in the second half. Kansas just couldn't miss down low, and Sanford still almost came back and won. In fact, that terrible foul call at the end on the block dunk, Sanford might have won that game otherwise. So I think Kansas is
challenge that. These idiots look at all the other stuff for time.
Yeah, Clark Kellogg had that recommendation in the post game, and I thought it was a great idea. The coaches get a challenge like they do in football. And I was even thinking, guys, you can make it even more simple. You can only challenge in the last 4 minutes of a game. Keep it simple, but you should never lose because of a call like that.
It was crap.
College basketball has a couple of rules that are ridiculously stupid and need to be changed. Right. The possession arrow is one of them. Just have a damn jump ball. So, that's just so dumb. Like, you fight, you're trying to come back late, possession arrow, the other team still has the ball after. And the other one is, like in the NBA, teams can take the ball at half court. You call a timeout, you come out of the timeout, you can take the ball at half court. You could do that in the women's game, in the NCAA women's game, but you can't in the men's game, which is stupid. It's sort of like in college football, which it's like, why is the play dead? Because someone's knee is down, even if they're not touched?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's an old safety rule. Yeah, that's a safety rule going back 40 years ago.
The bottom line is, though, Steve, to Gabe's point, they're going to the NFL.
It's a dumb rule.
And in the NFL, it's alive. I would have NFL rules for college players since they're going to be playing, if they do make it to the next level, in the NFL.
I agree.
So I understand the safety aspect,
high school rules. That's what it is. They're using the high school rules. They don't want the guy getting hit.
Exactly.
I think they need to change it. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. But you know what's funny? In the old days in college football, they wouldn't name the name of the player that committed the penalty because they didn't want to hurt their feelings.
Or the number.
Like
They wouldn't call the number. Yeah, the number.
Yeah. The name or number. Yeah. So no, but they did, Cam. That was because people would be like, well, who was it? They would tell the coach, right? Because the coach would be like, well, who? Right? And they'd come over, number 74. But they were like, wow, they're just kids. We don't want to single them out with fans. Right? So I'm just saying, like, we've come a long way with these little things. That's actually not bad, actually, when you consider the jackass fans giving death threats to kids and stuff after football games. But whether you name the player or not, or their number, it doesn't matter.
No, that's recent. That's recent. That's within the last 10 or 15 years. I vividly remember them not calling numbers out. Maybe longer. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah. No, but I would say they probably changed this in like the late 80s.
Oh, no, it's more recent
90s?
than that, I guarantee you. I'm saying 90s at the minimum, maybe later, because I vividly remember them not doing it. So, yeah, I think it's since I've been a pro, 96 or later.
It's time for people to get tough skin. Do you think Morency cried when he let in a few goals in hockey or something happened? Like, you know what, Steve? You're playing sport. Shut up. Yeah, sorry, Gabe. You know what I mean, though? Like the things, adversity makes you a stronger person, and that's the whole problem with today's society. Like, don't you ever get cut from a team, or the bad things happen? You keep grinding, and if you can tell people you can quit, or I don't want to be singled out. You know what?
Well,
play something else then. Tiddlywinks, you jerk. That's what I say.
The jump ball thing. I've asked people about it. They said it was a time issue.
That's a time issue. 100%. Yeah, and
really?
Gabe, to be honest with you, I'd be against that one. Let the lower levels, maybe college, but like high school and middle school,
Steve,
that I'm well
they go to
involved
the
with.
monitor for 10 minutes. How could it be a time issue?
But the lower levels,
and how long does it take to take the ball and throw it in the air?
No, but you get Gabe. I'm telling you, the lower levels.
We love you. We love you, Steve. Those refs in that game, Longwood versus Kansas, were at the monitor longer than
but Steve is right.
No, Cam, I don't disagree with that.
But no, you're right, though, Steve. Like, college goes by like the youth rules. Exactly.
The youth rules, you got to have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
Well,
it's not pro
game.
sports.
I'd like to see how many jump balls are in an average college basketball game. I don't think it's many. You might be right, but it's still probably 4 or 5, where the NBA has like 1. So it is a little bit of a time issue. But the thing that gets me, guys, how about this one? Replays in basketball and football arenas. They won't ever show the controversial calls on the screen. The replays, when they're reviewing something, that drives me crazy, and I hate that.
They do for the most part now. That's another one that they've
gotten better. They've gotten a little better in some places. Yeah.
Everybody has phones now, so it's not like in the old days. It was like, the screen. Nowadays, people they see everything right away, right? Like you'll see people holding their phone up, yelling at refs courtside. Hey, look, you jackass, look. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? I have it on my phone. Like, no, it's true. People, look, you're wrong, right? Like, that's the world.
Cam, real quick, Cam, they have a solution for the delays in basketball, and I think you're exactly right. These delays are like 5 minutes long. It's ridiculous. Remember, in the NFL, does it still black out after 30 seconds? I mean, that's the solution. It's like you get the call right in 30 seconds or it stands, and you got to be able to watch it real time. You can't slow it down.
These clowns are lingering over there like they're having a margarita and stuff. Like that Longwood, Kansas game was out of control. I'm like, what are they doing? Every play, Gabe, and like I want to get it right too, but these guys got to get it together. That was a bad display. Like, it was pretty.
I agree.
But thank you, Steve.
The thing is, they often don't get it right even after they watch it. 2018.
You're exactly right, Dave. They'll look at it for 5 minutes.
That's the problem.
And they still don't overturn it.
Yeah, and they still
it's like,
get
what are you doing?
Yeah,
you see that
30 seconds full speed.
You see that in the NFL a lot, where it's they review it. It's like you guys are still wrong. And it's like they don't want to admit they're wrong. That's what I've come to the conclusion of. They just don't want to admit that they're like, no, screw you. We're not changing it. There was one call. The refereeing, I think, in the tournament has been terrible late when the games are on the line. Like you talked about the Samford game where the referee was right there, too. How the hell do you not see that? But today in the Northwestern game against FAU, it was super close. It went to overtime, obviously. There was a sequence where the kid on Northwestern, nearly got his arm broken. Like, the kid on FAU came in and, hacked his arm with, 30 seconds left. He was trying to foul him. That was what was crazy. It's like they were trying to foul him. The ref, and the ball, goes out of bounds off the Northwestern guy because he got hacked in the arm. And he assumed, he starts walking towards the line, and they're like, no, it's Florida Atlantic's ball. You lost the ball. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? And then it took like 10 minutes, this one. This one took like 10 minutes because everyone started arguing about it. And they actually took like 10 minutes of reviewing it, and they kept going back for the time because they couldn't review the foul type of deal. And I was thinking, like, how much of, like, clowns do you three refs feel like right now? Exactly. Going over the same play over and over, trying to find the exact time. Well, you watch the replay of a foul that you didn't call, right? But the thing is, it's like a 1-point game, man, in an overtime game. It's like, dude, like, get it right late. I understand it's tough, but they miss like some really blatantly easy calls late in these games that decide the game. Like last night, Sanford got put down 4 because of that, due to the sequence. Buddy went on the free throw line. They would have had the ball. It would have been a fast break. Who knows what would have happened, right? Instead, they ended up being down. It could have potentially cost them the game, that bad call last night.
I will say this real quick, guys. The only problem with reviewing fouls and even the dunk last night is that a foul stops play. You know, so like they called a foul there, the play stops. That was a loose ball after that blocked dunk. You know, then you got to go to possession error, right? And you can't, you know, if you don't call a foul,
but Steve, Longwood obvious they had the ball after the block. It wasn't even debatable. The guy just should have let the play go. Longwood had possession.
Well, no, I know that can, but what I'm talking is if you had a challenge option, it's still kind of flawed because the play stopped or it hasn't stopped. You know, that's where it gets kind of sticky.
Yes. Yeah. You're right. Anyway.
Longwood are playing right now.
And Gene's territory every time. Oh, I agree. You're one of those analysts too. Shut up and get an opinion.
They go,
you're already getting.
Gene, what was your take on that? He goes, it probably was not a foul. I'm like, thanks, Gene. Go cash your paycheck.
Say something.
There was a few times, like last night, like even there was a couple of games where even the play-by-play guy said, he said, it's been a rough day for the officials. And they had Sterator on, and Sterator even said, he goes, yeah, he kind of sounded defeated. He's like, yeah.
Defeated.
Like he couldn't argue it, basically. He goes, yeah, they shouldn't have blown the whistle there. It's like, well, it's kind of like.
Defeated.
Well, because he couldn't come in and defend them, right?
I know what you mean. He doesn't want to. Cam, you're both right. Like, he doesn't want to pick on the officials. He knows them all. And, like, dude, he's not a neutral bystander.
I've ripped Sterator so much over the years, and I'm on the Pat McAfee show in Vegas, and I'm sitting there in the green room, and who's sitting next to me? Gene Sterator.
Huh.
I'm like, this is awkward.
He's probably never heard you rip him, though. But he's probably never heard you rip him. No, he doesn't
care. Well, he's an NFL ref, and you're an NFL and college basketball ref. You're used to being ripped, I'm sure.
No joke. Thick skin.
He was actually a nice guy, like in real life. He's one of those. You know what I mean? Like I saw, like he got like a bunch of free meals. Everybody was sucking up to him. Hey, Gene, good to see you. Why don't you come by and have a free meal in my restaurant and stuff? I'm just sitting there. No one's offering me anything. Just sitting there, like no one said, hey, why don't you come by? And someone's like, come by the Venetian later. I'm just sitting there.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance.
That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NC State game on Saturday against North Carolina that stood out most to me, that they not only went on a 5-day heater like they did in '83 when Valvano took them another 6 games and they won the national championship.
The committee didn't sit there at the beginning of the week and think that Oregon, New Mexico, NC State, Duquesne, they didn't sit there planning for all those teams to go and win.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. The Friday Night Freak Show continues. 23-22 for TCU right now. We're going to get Steve Merrill out of here in a minute. We're going to bring Mick Ossie on for a quick AFL hit. And then Rob Vino will jump back in. We'll hit the college basketball. Grand Canyon and St. Mary's still on the board right now. They haven't tipped off yet. St. Mary's currently laying 5.5 right now, and the total keeps getting bet up. It's up to 132 right now. So, Steve, before we get you out of here, what game catches your eye tomorrow? I find the card to be tricky. I look at the numbers. I'm like, wow, these numbers are very just sort of like I'm looking, sort of like shopping. I'm shopping for cars and at the Lamborghini lot or something. I'm like, I can't afford that. I don't like this. And like, you know what I mean? Nothing. I can't do it. I have a hard time doing anything with these games. The one game that jumped off the screen for me personally is North Carolina. I was all over Michigan State against Mississippi State. I knew they were going to beat Mississippi State, but doesn't mean they're going to beat North Carolina. And I don't think they're going to beat North Carolina. And somebody disagrees because it was 4 down to 3.5 right now. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I think it's the Tom Izzo love and the Michigan State pedigree, but I thought it was a really good spot for Michigan State on Thursday. I love, just like Clemson today, I like taking those teams that nobody thought should be in the tournament when they're single-digit seeds. They usually overperform, but that often comes to an end in the second round. And that line did look a little short. I thought North Carolina would be a bigger favorite. That's the 5:30 Eastern game, by the way. It's not the early tip-off game. I thought they would make that the spotlight game for the networks. That game is actually Dayton, Arizona. So Arizona's actually playing at 9:30 Pacific time on their body clocks in Salt Lake City in the thin air and altitude. So that's an unusual early tip-off there. By the way, the fourth biggest favorite of the 8 games tomorrow is NC State minus 6.5, a team that was 12-14 just over a week ago, laying 6.5. Really wanted to fade both of these teams, and unfortunately they're playing each other.
Steve Merrill, wagertalk.com. Always good, Steve. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one, Steve.
Steve Merrill in-house. 21-21 Lakers and Sixers right now. 43-16 Houston at the half over Longwood. Nice. They're laying 35.5 points.